Priyanka madam, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
Okay.
No
Okay.
problem. Sir, with your permission, shall we start the session, sir?
Yeah.
Uh, Good afternoon, everybody. I, Dr. V. Priyanka, Assistant Professor of EC Department, extend a warm welcome for a guest lecture which is organized under AICTE Distinguished Chair Professor Scheme on Higher Education and National Development. The resource person for the event, I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Anil Kakodkar, sir, who is Chancellor of Homi Baba National Institute. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation.
Thank you.
Now, I request our Dean Academics, Dr. Anuradha ma'am, to kindly please give brief introduction about the institute to Anil Kakodkar, sir.
Sir, good afternoon and warm welcome to VNR VJIT, sir. And herewith, like we are presenting our institute profile in brief. Like I will be presenting it through a PPT, sir. We welcome you once again, sir.
Yeah.
As a Chancellor of Homi Baba National Institute, it is our great pride to have you on this occasion. And very good afternoon to all faculty members, dear faculty colleagues and the students for this distinguished session of first session under AICTE's distinguished chair professor scheme. Thank you very much, sir. And coming to our institution, VNR VJIT, which is established in the year 1995, and it is Madam, I will share the screen.
Yes, ma'am, please kindly share the screen.
Okay, madam, is it
Yes,
visible?
ma'am, it's visible. Ma'am,
So,
make it a slideshow, ma'am, please.
right.
Yes, ma'am.
VNR VJIT is established in the year 1995, sir, and it is sponsored by Vijnana Jyoti, which is a society conceived in the year 1990 as a not-for-profit organization by visionary entrepreneurs and educationalists for whom achieving excellence is a practice. The vision and mission, we have the world-class university, value-based and interdisciplinary research in cutting-edge technologies, leading to sustainable socio-economic development of the nation. And to achieve that mission, we have the working strategy, the mission which to produce technically competent and socially responsible engineers, managers, and entrepreneurs, and basically like involving students and faculty in innovative research projects linked with industry, academia, and research institutions in India and abroad. And the cutting edge, we can understand always like the kind of emerging technologies we adopt at VNR VJIT. And with that mission, we always strive hard to achieve the vision of the institute. And major milestones in the past decade, in 2011, like we are with the JNTH permanent affiliation, and 2012 UGC autonomy, like we have first time UGC autonomous status we achieved, and from 2012 onwards, the institute has recognized by various accrediting bodies like the NBA accredited programs we have, and also NAC A++ grade in 2018, where the CGPA 3.73 accredited with NAC. And UGC autonomous also extended for 10 years from the academic year 1919 to till 2027-28, sir. And also when it comes to NIRF ranking, we have 135 rank in engineering category, and good placements, like the way students are employed into the industry with highest package is 93.15 lakh, and a lot of like awards and other aspects like are added year on year measures into the VNR VJIT in milestones from 11 to 21. Sir. This is at a glance of VNR VJIT's growth. And we have eminent persons as mentors at VNR VJIT. Dr. B.L. Dikshitulu Garu, Chairman Research Advisory Board, former Director NRSA. Dr. M. Ramurthy Garu, Distinguished Professor EEE, and former Director General CPRI. Dr. Satish Reddy, Chairman DRDO, and our member of Academic Council, the founder member. And Professor M.R. Madhav Sir, Distinguished Professor Civil Engineering Department, under again AICTE's INAE scheme, a visiting professor at our IIT Hyderabad as well as like JNTUH. And this is our great pride, sir, to have you on our eminent persons as mentors, Dr. Anil Kakodkar, sir, as a distinguished chair professor from AICTE's funded scheme, and who is the former chairman and Atomic Energy Commission. And also we have our board, basically like Dr. A. Subhananda Rao, sir, Director R&D in our institution, who has been associated with the former Director General DRDO and lot of research association with the institute and funding projects and mentor for the research and development and funded research projects, sir. And Mrs. Sandhya Kode, Dr. Sandhya Kode, Madam, Director Advancement and Director at Enhanced Edu IT, and our Director here for teaching and learning processes. A lot of like innovative methods in teaching learning also. Madam is mentoring the institute. And Dr. Kelly Butler, Fulbright Nehru Scholar, Professor of Chemistry. And this is in brief about the eminent professors under whose mentorship like institute is really like taking its good shape into the academic and research domains. And we have the UG programs, 14 UG programs, including like most core engineering branches like civil, electrical and electronics, mechanical, electronics and communication. And then coming into the automobile engineering and computer science, various domains we have, sir. And with an intake of 1740. PG programs also with varied specialized programs in civil, electrical, mechanical, CE, CSE. We have 13 PG programs with an intake of 234. And when it comes to the total profile of the institute, it is like faculty strength 406. We have dedicated and committed faculty with PhD 162 and faculty pursuing PhD, mostly like research wise, like institute is taking its good heights. And coming to the student strength, we have both UG and PG 6,000, around 6,000 students. And when it comes to the patents also, we have 86 patents wherein like we need to grow on that domain, where 13 are granted and 73 are published. And research publications, total for the past 10 years data is here, 2,910. And maximum citations 475. Copyrights, trademarks, like that we have into the research also. Research and development labs and centers of research, 10 centers are here there. And mostly like VNR VJIT differentiators, these are all the way like project based learning is taking place through introduction of course based projects, and where like wit and will is one of the concept, where a trademarked aspect where a lot of application oriented domains into the teaching, which is coined by our former president Dr. D.N. Rao sir, president of Vignana Jyoti. And the shadow engineering, where students get exposed to industry orientation by going to the industry and working under the shadow of the industry people. That's how like a lot of initiatives are taken into the system, where students get exposed along with academics, a lot of industry exposures. And we have a Center for Presenting and Design Thinking, which is again a brainchild of our former president, Dr. D.N. Rao sir, wherein like we have introduced the curriculum based courses also in design sensitization and design thinking courses into the engineering, undergraduate engineering at first year and third year level. And this is the philosophy of VNR VJIT, where a lot of decentralized and transparent processes are there in the administration. Coming to the research, we have centers of research in and 5 departments are recognized as research centers by our affiliated university JNTUH. And apart from that, AICTE recognized research center is established to offer full-time PhD program under AICTE's NDF scheme. And we have centers of research in various domains of core as well as emerging technologies, disaster mitigation, renewable energy systems, Internet of Things, data science, networks and security. A lot of research is going on into the centers of research, under which we carry out funded projects also, especially like when it comes to the um, uh, Internet of Things and micro car, various domains of industry sponsored projects we take up. And few of the projects, just I will glance through, sir. Design and development of night vision for your kind information. Night vision imaging, LIDAR and laser 3D imaging system for homeland security, which is these projects are funded by, project is funded by DRDO and what grant 51.286 and duration is 3 years. It is all ongoing projects. And design and development of secure weapon shooting information system. This is also, we have this funded by ARDE Pune and the grant around 10 lakhs. Duration is 1.5 years and research group, good amalgamation of various like domains of engineering, CSC, ECE. We have like good research group formation is there to carry out this kind of projects. And development of effective wireless sensor network system for water quality. Again, this is the ITRA project in collaboration with the University of Hyderabad and IIIT. Automated commando training system is, these are all the completed projects where the under RC Research and Consultancy Center of Institute, these projects are executed. Weapon locking and tracking system, again a DRDO project, which is completed project. Driving simulator is another project, which is, these are all the completed projects under the RCC of the institute, wherein interdisciplinary research happens. Sensor measurement, sensory measurement unit and driver drill cabin for safety driving. This is a completed project. These are all the glances, wherein again a prosthetic hand. This is sanctioned by MSME Bangalore, like IISc and MSME Bangalore, 6.75 lakhs, wherein this is also like student group is involved into the development of this project along with the faculty teams. And this is one of the innovation incubation started by our own students, like air conditioned helmet, received awards in India in the International Innovation Fair also. Cuff and wheeze analyzer is another one. So like to go through the various domains of the projects, the intuitive lights for automobiles. Likewise, we have various research funded projects that are carrying on, that are being carried out at institute. And coming to the innovations, as I have mentioned, like patents, trademarks, and copyrights, we have in various domains. And we have a VJ Hub as an incubation center, wherein we have the incubatees like from faculty, students, like that, and funded by MSME. We have these incubations. And as a part of extension activities also, many industry tie-ups like collaboration with overseas universities, research organizations, state government. That is how like the institute is taking its way ahead with the support of a lot of regulatory authorities and mentorship and the management's lot of visionary management approach. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. This was a very brief insight about our college, sir. Now
Yeah.
I request our faculty Dharmateja ma'am to kindly please introduce today's chief guest.
Good morning, everyone. I take the privilege of introducing Dr. Anil Kakodkar, sir. Anil Kakodkar, sir, was born on 11th November 1943. He's an Indian nuclear physicist and mechanical engineer. He was the chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission of India and the secretary to the Government of India. He was the director of Baba Atomic Research Center, Trombay, from 1996 to 2000. He was awarded the Padma Vibhushan, India's second highest civilian honor, on 26th January 2009. Apart from playing a major role in India's nuclear tests, asserting sovereignty, Kakodkar sir champions in India's self-reliance on thorium as a fuel for nuclear energy. He had his early education at Barwani and at Kharbone until moving to Mumbai for post-matriculation studies. He joined the reactor engineering division of the BARC and played a key role in the design and construction of Dhruva reactor, a completely original but high-tech project. He was a part of the core team of architects of India's peaceful nuclear tests in 1974 and 1998. Further, he has led the indigenous development in India's pressurized heavy water reactor technology. He also worked in the rehabilitation of 2 reactors at Kalpakam and the first unit at Rawat Bata, which at one stage were on the verge of being written off. In 1996, he became director of the BARC, and since 2000, he has been leading the Atomic Energy Commission of India and also is the secretary of the Department of Atomic Energy. He has published over 250 scientific papers. He believes that India should be self-reliant in energy, especially by use of the cheap national thorium resources. He continues to engage in designing the advanced heavy water reactor that uses thorium uranium-233 as the primary energy source with plutonium as the driver fuel. The unique reactor system with simplified but safe technology will generate 75% of electricity from thorium. Apart from this, Dr. Kakodkar is a member of many boards, commissions, and other organizations. Some of them are Chairman, Board of Governors of the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, from 2006 to 2015, Chairman, Board of Directors of Maharashtra Knowledge Corporation Limited, Pune, Member, Atomic Energy Commission, Member, ONGC Energy Center Trust, Chairman, Empowered Committee on IIT Reforms. Presently, he is serving as a director on the Central Board of Reserve Bank of India. He is a fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering and served as its president during 1999 to 2000. He is a fellow of the Indian Academy of Sciences, the National Academy of Sciences, India, and the Maharashtra Academy of Sciences. He is a chairperson of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar National Institute of Technology, Jalandhar. He is chairman of Rajiv Gandhi Science and Technology Commission, Government of Maharashtra, Mantralaya, Mumbai. And also he have won several national awards like Padma Shri in 1998, Padma Bhushan in 1999, Padma Vibhushan in 2009. Other awards are highest civilian award of the Maharashtra State, Maharashtra Bhushan Award, highest civilian award of the Goa State, Gomant Vibhushan Award 2010, Hariom Ashram Prerit Vikram Sarabhai Award 1988, HK Firodia Award for Excellence in Science and Technology 97, Indian Science Congress Association's HJ Baba Memorial Award 99 to 2000, Godavari Gaurav Award 2000, Chemtech Foundation's Achiever of the Year Award for Energy 2002, Homi Baba Lifetime Achievement Award 2010, Acharya Varamihir Award 2000 by Varamihir Institute of Scientific Heritage and Research, Ujjain, India. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
So you can share your screen, sir.
So, time for me to start?
Yes, sir. Anuradha ma'am, can you please stop sharing your screen, ma'am?
Yeah. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir, you can. So you're on mute, sir.
Not able to share this. It says share entire screen, window, and it taps.
Your entire screen, anything is okay, sir.
Yes, but
When you click on your entire screen, you'll be getting a pop-up window, sir. So you need to click on the window which is displayed, sir, on the.
Yeah, but that is what I'm not able to see. It's so small.
Oh,
Let me see. Try this.
yes, sir. Got it, sir.
No, but I don't know if it's the right one.
You can minimize this, sir, and go get back to the PPT which is open.
Sorry?
Just open the PPT, sir, the PowerPoint presentation
Yeah,
window.
but I'm not seeing that here. To avoid infinity error, don't share your screen. Something.
Minimize the browser, sir. You can minimize this browser. Rightmost. Yeah, minimize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Okay.
can start the slideshow, sir. Just keep the screen.
Okay, so I think I'm set. Let me also make it full screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay, my screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay.
You can carry.
So thank you, everybody from VNR Vijnana Jyoti Institute of Engineering and Technology. And I'm very happy to deliver the 3 lecture series. Today, the first one is on higher education and national development. The second one, I intend doing it on the energy. And the third one, I intend doing it on the rural development. These are the 3 areas where I do spend my time. Now, of course, higher education and national development have been always sort of important and interrelated issues, and they have been discussed all the time. In the context of the National Education Policy 2020, I think this has got into renewed focus, and there is a big national effort in terms of how we can leverage our higher education infrastructure uh, towards both human development, of course, that's the primary purpose of education, but in addition, national development. And so I want to share some aspects on this. This is a big subject, but I'll share only a few aspects. Now, as a part of introduction, I have you can see in the 2 slides on 2 sides 2 important institutions. One, the important institution in India, that is the Institute of Science, established in 1909, and Harvard, which was established in 1636, and everybody is aware of what Harvard is. The point I'm wanting to focus is, we have this ranking of universities. There are global rankings, different uh, uh, ranking systems. There is also an Indian ranking, and I'm sure I saw the Vijnana Jyoti Institute of Engineering Technology also being reflected somewhere in the NIRF framework. Unfortunately, if you look at countries like United States, and I'm talking here about only one ranking system, and the ranks, as you all know, vary and very significantly. So, but not to worry about the merits of different parameters in the ranking, but broadly, for example, I have looked at here as academic ranking of world universities, and I'm talking about the numbers which were relevant to 2019. Now, according to that, the US had 137 institutions in top 500. China had 58 institutions in top 500. Uh, South Korea had 11 institutions in top 500. Singapore, which is a tiny city state, but that also has 2 in top 500. India, which is a large country, and we talk about a huge knowledge heritage. Uh, According to this ranking, we have only 1 in top 500. I know according to some other, we may have a few more in the around 200 range or 100 to 200 range. So it's not that, for example, Harvard is now going to be nearly 600 years old. Our institutions are relatively new. Of course, we have number of institutions which are older than 100 years. But an Institute of Science is, of course, an exception. But our institutions tend to decay with time. Older the institutions, you find it's in bad shape in somehow. We are not able to maintain that excellence in our institutions. Now, maybe that's also the phenomena broadly world over. But if you look at this top rank, there are many, many old institutions in top ranks. You look at Oxford, you look at Cambridge. In all countries, there are universities in Europe, there are universities in United States. You saw China, and many of them are very old universities, several hundred years old. And the point is that they maintain their preeminence, they maintain their excellence. And many places, for example, University of Paris, if you look at it, it has gone through a lot of kind of crisis situations depending on the political changes and all. But that institution has bounced back, and it is still an important institution. So there is something which we must learn as to how institutions, according to me, are more important than any other thing. You know, you can almost judge a country, you can judge a society and its excellence or eminence from the institutions that it has and the level of institutions it has. Unfortunately, we had old institutions, but they all become kind of they suffer decay and not remain rejuvenated. And I'll come back to this point towards the end, but I think it's an important element in terms of the role of institutions in national development. It's not a question of just running some academic programs and training students and giving them degrees. That anybody will do, even a coaching class does. The important thing is you must contribute to the values in the society, you must contribute to the technological development of the country, and that is what the higher education space must really achieve. Now, so having left that thought with all of you, let us look at human resource development in somewhat broader perspective. See, we want to take our society towards an enlightened society. You know, Indian society was an enlightened society. Uh, if you look at our ancient history, there are plenty of achievements which we are all proud of. Question is, as I said, you know, we have kind of degenerated. So now we should aim to move towards, back towards that enlightened society. Now you can look at an enlightened society in a variety of ways. Here I would like to submit that, in a society, of course, human beings, we are, uh, we evolved ourselves as human society, and there are attributes, and you can describe that, uh, different people can describe that in different ways. But the fact remains that everybody has to earn something for livelihood. You want to survive, you must be able to get hold of some essential things. Either you produce yourself, or you can buy it or get it from elsewhere. And if you want to get it from elsewhere in a perpetual way, then you must also give something. So it could be buying and selling, it could be barter, it could be whatever. But there is always this kind of relationship between an economic activity in a society and other activities of the society. This is inescapable. Now look at a third important element, which is what we are all dealing with, and that is knowledge. Now, knowledge could be and should be very deeply interacting with all activities in the society and including in economic activities. But for a long time, it has been, I'm sure all of you have observed that we have put knowledge on a pedestal. What I mean by that is the knowledge or the people who are engaged in knowledge activities. It could be a priest, it could be a enlightened wise man, it could be a big maharshi, or it could be some teachers like us. Now, we have, the engagement with the society and more particularly engagement with economy, it's sort of, everything has been at arm's length. So, but at the same time, society did respect the knowledge activity, but that is, I would say, respect uh, in a token manner, not in the form of a deep engagement. We haven't paid our teachers well. Now, of course, in the government, the salaries have increased, and that's another issue. I'm going to talk about that. But then, for example, if there is shortage of teachers, we get some people to teach on a kind of a contract service, and what kind of salaries we pay them. People who do some trivial activities in society, they probably get more money. So we have not treated knowledge well, and but at the same time, everybody respects them. If we are worried about sort of our not being maintained a very virtuous life or virtuous daily routine, we all want to go to temple, pray. We all want to go to listen and to a good discourse. And the feeling is that, well, we have done our kind of a bit, so our sins are washed away. Next day, we are ready to engage ourselves into daily activities. Now, a society which is essentially interaction is between society and economy and not so much with the knowledge, that society, the relationship will be inevitably transactional. And the transactional relationships are all pervading: relationship between people, relationship between segments of societies and all. But if it is purely transactional, including, as I said, if I go to temple, I put some money in the hundi and I think that I have washed off all my sins. This is a transactional mindset. Now, in a transactional mindset, essentially trade flourishes, and India has been a very good trading community, and we had a long history of Indians having gone on both, uh, gone all the way up to the eastern countries, also in the African countries, from India, pursued trade, brought in a lot of wealth. and so also in the northern states through the land route. But because of that knowledge being separated, there has not been much of a value addition. I get raw material, trade it off. I buy something from somewhere, some finished product, bring it here and sell it off. When you engage with these activities, with knowledge you leverage, then you actually give rise to entrepreneurship. And we know these days we're giving a lot of importance to entrepreneurship. And there we indulge in value addition. We indulge in doing some innovative technologies. And it is this activity which is, which is beyond the pure transactional activity. There is a significant content in value creation. There is a significant joy because you have done something new. There is significant joy because you have done something different than others. And that is where the technology appears, that is where the innovation appears. And now we have this innovation and startup space and all. So the point I'm trying to say is, compared to a society where society is primarily transactional, trading society, and knowledge is only for giving pravachanas and things like that. If knowledge intimately engages, and if you have a three-way engagement between knowledge, society, and economy, then actually you go towards a more virtuous society, in my view. Technology flourishes, value addition flourishes, and of course, there is, you move towards a higher level of enlightenment. So you leverage frontiers of knowledge, and you build human capability, you create technology empowerment, but you also create a more humane society. Because, we all say human beings have become powerful compared to other species in the animal kingdom because of, your brain. We invented several tools, several technologies, and so we have become more powerful than other animal species. And but at the same time, we have also developed human values. We have gone beyond animal values. We have developed human values, and so instead of an animal society or a society pursuing a jungle raj, knowledge empowers us. Knowledge enables us to move towards a more humane society. And this you can see this as happening if you reflect whatever knowledge of history each one has, and reflect in our own families, go 3-4 generations back, you find that this has been happening all the time. But sometimes one wonders whether uh, you know the we're moving towards a more humane society, or we are more moving towards a more society dominated by animal instincts. And I'll come back to that in a moment. So in that context, let us look at higher education space, particularly in the context of science-based multidisciplinary research environment. Now, it could be a university, it could be a large college like yours, it could be, but what I'm talking about is not kind of straight-jacketed subject teaching, because that doesn't take you any further. In fact, even you want to move deep into that subject itself, you need to leverage many other disciplines and many other technologies. So multidisciplinarity is very important. But in the context of value creation, that's what we were talking about. Um, our higher education institutions, they need to be both knowledge creators as well as value creators. Now, talking about value creation, we can look at value creation at three levels. At the lowest level, it's a value creation in the sense you leverage raw resources and pay for getting those resources. Uh, or it could be raw materials, it could be ores, it could be crude oil and raw material, or it could be even labor. You just import that. And then there could be a lot of trade. And this has happened, people have gone as labor from one country to another country. Or a lot of raw materials, ore bodies have been exploited and exported. Now, this is very low use of knowledge, and value creation, it's at the minimal level, essentially only to support trade. You can do some bookkeeping, you can do some accounting, things like that, but it doesn't really take society very far. In fact, in a competitive environment, you will move backwards and your wealth will tend to go to other countries. This is what happened in India during the industrial era. At one stage higher than that, uh, you know, uh, that's a level where there is adoption of procedural knowledge to create value. I have learned engineering, I have learned technology, I have learned medicine. So, the core economies now you can support by either by muscle, but leveraging this procedural knowledge, constructing the houses, constructing dams, and the like. Or you can also do a significant amount of brain work, intellectual work, and do even better things, in the sense, instead of getting the design of the house from elsewhere, I can do design myself. I can, if I identify a new need, I can carry out the engineering to satisfy that need, and then of course put it in practice. So this is the professional knowledge layer. Same thing about medicine, same thing about uh, accounting, commerce, higher level economic activities, so on and so forth. And I think most of our activities in the country, I would say, are at this layer at this moment. If you go even higher, the top layer, then we are talking about, working up to the frontiers of knowledge, both learning and implementing at that level, and building cutting edge technologies. For example, in your own design of courses, I notice suddenly artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science. These are the things which have become very popular among students, and you have created a lot of courses. The important thing is the algorithms which are embedded in that, the core of those subjects, the taking that subject to even forward new frontiers. How much of work we are doing in that area, and how much of work we are doing in teaching these areas to our students so that they can also apply it. And I think this is an important distinction that you need to make, because today's world, at the leaders in technology world, or the leaders who are kind of dominating the world, the R&D intensive high technology, it actually constitutes the main engine of economic growth in today's world. Now, in addition, the new technologies would exploit new knowledge domains that are emerging. There may be new, for example, I know many of you talk about quantum, but it's essentially in the knowledge domain. Not much has come in the application domain as yet, except, for example, Bitcoin has become a big thing, but that is not quite quantum physics. That is uh, the blockchain technology. But the blockchain technology has many other applications. So it's a evolving technology and not just Bitcoin. Same thing is true about cognitive and brain sciences, for example. So the point is there are these new kind of growth engines, and it's important that our knowledge institution should be on the frontiers of developing these growth engines and leveraging these growth engines for the society. So if you concentrate on the two vertical arrows on the right hand side of this figure, you would notice that as you move from 3 to 2, 2 to 1, the knowledge intensity, it actually becomes higher and higher. And but at the same time, the exploitation potential also becomes very high. And you know, for example, you have the social media, a lot of debate, how powerful it has become. It can manipulate elections in countries. And we also notice that. Now, the question is, we want to develop technologies, we want to create human empowerment, but we want to create human empowerment for eliminating disparities and not promoting disparities. Quality higher education that is accessible to all is the key to eliminate disparities, provided it, that all is very important. Otherwise, if it gets restricted to a few people, surely they'll start dominating, way other countries are dominating the weaker countries. And so, as we move towards multidisciplinary research, science-based multidisciplinary research, I think we should have equal emphasis on the liberal arts program, humanities program, for to make sure that human minds are trained in the right direction. So, as I was saying earlier, knowledge multiplies power. Now, if you don't train human mind properly, and that's an important domain of education, then actually you are enhancing the exploitative potential of technology and promoting animal instinct. All of us have some animal instincts because after all, we are a part of animal kingdom. But rather than promoting animal instincts, I think it is the human instincts that we should be promoting, and that is what will contribute to welfare. And I think this is a very important point for knowledge institutions to worry, because are we creating Frankensteins, or are we creating people who will take the Indian society towards a more welfare oriented society, taking care of everybody? So, inculcating human values through mentoring and practice is very important. Howsoever lecturing you may do, the values don't get inculcated unless there is element of practice. So there should be an element of practice, and that is the key to sustainable welfare societies, even as knowledge becomes the force multiplier for human capability. And this, I think, all knowledge institutions must understand and implement in their activities in a very careful and sincere manner. Because otherwise, we are already witnessing this climate change threat. As Mahatma Gandhi had said, there is enough on earth for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. So, while we strengthen our technology base to empower ourselves, we must strengthen human values to eliminate exploitation. Holistic liberal education in tune with individual students' interest. Some different people may have different interests, and that's a good thing. That diversity is an important thing. We talk so much about diversity in nature. Why can't we talk about diversity in amongst us human beings? And if we want to become a better society, enlightened society, I think we must promote and respect diversity amongst ourselves. And our education system must give choices to students to pursue areas and no compartmentalization of history separate, geography separate, economics separate, science separate, engineering separate. This is doing a lot of harm, and new education policy, as you would recognize, in fact stresses on this aspect very much. Now, adoption of appropriate technologies and their deployment strategies is another important aspect, and that again requires an holistic view, because you want to bridge the human divides, most of the time, because otherwise the few people become strong, then you actually they become continue to become stronger, the weak continue to become weaker, and then you have a lot of disparities. So there must be universal access to knowledge. It can't be that cities you have better access and villages you have poorer access, or rich have better access, poorer have poorer access. There must be a holistic learning environment. There couldn't be a straight-jacketed thing. And you can't say that I'm scientist, so I will not worry about other things. You can't say that I am an artist, so I don't worry about technology. That attitude, putting blinkers, is not a good thing. I think there must be holistic uh, about learning environment around us. The principle of compensation, whatever we do, of course, that, as I said, you do something, so you get paid in return, and that is how all the activities are. But the question is whether everybody is compensated in a manner which is just and equitable. Today it is, everything is determined by market principle. Something which is scarce, the compensation automatically becomes high. And that and there are many things which is available free from by nature, for example water, air, or that matter insects, which provide pollination service, which is the basis of our food production, our survival. We just don't worry about it, we pay nothing. On the other hand, if somebody which is strong, he creates an artificial scarcity, and then everybody runs and is prepared to pay more money, and those who can pay, they benefit, those who cannot pay cannot benefit. So there is something fundamentally wrong in the way we are structured, because, as I said, the principles of compensation must be based on human justice and not just market principles of demand and supply. And this in itself is a big topic, I don't want to get into that. But I think in the context of education and respect, we tend to pay respect for those who have money. As I said, we tend to pay respect for those who have wisdom, but that is a kind of a token respect. The two respects are not the same. And those who are neither money nor wisdom, we treat them like duds. So that should change. And it's a very important role for education. Another aspect that we need to focus when you're talking about human values and organizing the society properly is this aspect of attention to sustainability. The way we are, disparities ultimately end up in cliffage effects. And disparity need not be only in terms of economic earning. Disparities in different kinds of exploitation of water, exploitation of minerals. And if you don't pay attention to sustainability, you end up in cliff edges. The way it happened, for example, during pandemic, a lot of people from villages have been in cities earning their livelihood. But moment the lockdown was announced, these people had nowhere to go. They couldn't live in cities. They had great difficulty going to villages. And we saw this distress migration. And there are very sordid stories. Now, such a cliffage effect need not happen. I think we should keep society, whether in cities or in villages, in equilibrium, so that they have, when we talk about running enterprises, we talk about risk management. You want to de-risk our business. Shouldn't we think about how do we de-risk our lives? Taking life insurance is only a small part of de-risking our lives. And as a collective, de-risking societies is a bigger issue. And I think we need to pay attention. And in this, of course, resources and resource management is involved, waste management is involved. We must make sure that we adopt the 3R strategy, that is reduce, reuse, and recycle. And even better still, you resort to circular economy so that there is no waste. Everything, you can create value out of everything, including waste. Uh, Similarly, we must respect for environment and the services environment provides. And I give you example of pollination service, but there are many things we give. And we just think that, well, I don't have to factor that in my business. I think the time has come when such selfish approaches just won't work. And finally, most important, the ecological sustainability. So I think when you are talking about education, our children must get exposed to all these dimensions in addition to whatever deep, whatever subjects they want to go deep in. Now, that is one aspect, but let's come back to this value creation aspect. All of you have heard the names of Stanford, MIT, and I mentioned about Harvard and things like that. Now, just as an example of a university contributing to national development beyond human resources, human resources, we all talk. We've graduated so many people, they got such and such package and all that thing. I think that is important. I'm not saying that's not important, but that actually misses the main purpose. So I want to quote a study that was done in the context of Stanford University. The university has more than 2,100 award-winning faculty, including 19 Nobel laureates. This must be at the time when the study was done. 2 field medalists. Field medalist is the top award in equivalent of a Nobel Prize in mathematics. Companies such as Google, Cisco, Yahoo, HP, Charles Schwab, eBay, Instagram, VMware, and Tesla. And I'm sure these names are all familiar to you. They have their roots at Stanford. According to a 2012 study, since the year 1930, Stanford entrepreneurs, that is entrepreneurs who are faculty of Stanford or were students, alumni of Stanford, they have started 39,900 companies. And these in turn have created 5.4 million jobs. And here you please pay your attention. And they generate $2.7 trillion US dollars in revenue annually every year. And recognize that this number, $2.7 trillion, is roughly equivalent to India's GDP. So a single university like Stanford creates value consistent with India's GDP. Now, how many universities do we have in India? If each one of them were to be even 1/100th of what Stanford is, you can imagine how much value addition we could create. And that is what we need to achieve. That is what we need to understand. Now, unfortunately, the picture is not that rosy. We need to make our R&D investments more productive. We blame government. We keep on talking about the 2.5% of GDP. That, of course, is an important yardstick. If you see these figures, there are countries which are investing upwards of 3.5, 4%, whereas India is barely at around 0.6, 0.7% of GDP. You can look at that. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Can you see my cursor? Anyway, so India is at such a low fraction. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So the we must spend more money. Government must spend more money. While that is okay, but if you look at this figure, the size of the circles is actually equivalent to the money that country is spending on R&D. And India's circle is quite big. In fact, bigger than Israel, Canada, Sweden, UK, Switzerland, Finland. And which means that we are spending more money on R&D compared to these countries. So obviously our technology should be superior to those countries. You just take a look around you and see how many of our technology products are going to these countries and how many technology products we are buying from these countries. And then ask that question for ourselves as to why our R&D investments are not productive. We must spend more money is right, but they may also, one point comes in that India is a large country, so we have to cater to large number of people. So our resources get spread very thin and they're not productive. That is also not true. The per full-time equivalent spending in India is comparable to other better countries in the world. And that's another. So I think we need to do a lot of soul searching to do. If individually government is spending comparable money on us, and of course this is on dollar purchase parity terms, but which is fine. That's the way it should be. And then we complain that industry investments are low. That is true, but you ask industry, they have no confidence that if they invest in our R&D infrastructure, that the money will be properly utilized. So I think there is an urgent need to evolve and nurture a conducive innovation ecosystem and respond to technology development demands. We are not doing that. Let's be fair about it. We need a mindset change across all domains: society, academia, research institutions, industry, bureaucracy, political and policy domains, and so on. Now, this is the challenge before the higher education system. That, just opening a college, that is a need, because I think we need to create access to a large number of people. But I think, as I said right in the beginning, we must move towards excellence. Most of the places, there are exceptions, but most of the places we tend to move towards degeneration. And that is what should get arrested. So I want to cite an old paper by Mr. Stokes, Donald E. Stokes, called the pasture quadrant. And so, drivers, what are the drivers for competitive research? Now, look at that on 4 quadrants. Quest for fundamental understanding, is, let's say, on the vertical axis. Research is always driven by the quest for fundamental understanding. And on the other axis, horizontal axis, let us say consideration for use. What productive use I can put? What is the value I can create out of my research, and so on and so forth. Now, talk about basic research, pure basic research, curiosity driven and pure voyage to discovery. Very important. And I think the very fundamental of the progress of mankind, evolution of mankind is essentially arisen because man has been always inquisitive about new things around. That is what really differentiated man from animals. So that is important and that should continue to happen. Then you have the user-inspired basic research, which the author calls pasture quadrants. The work that locates the center of research in an area of basic scientific ignorance that lies at the heart of a social problem. And that's precisely what uh, Professor Pasture did. Then you have a pure applied research, the inventor driven to solve a practical problem. And that's what Edison did. And he invented the incandescent lamp, for example. So these are all, different domains of research, and they are all very important. All of them are important. You can't say that one is more important than others. And then finally, there is research which the author describes as science nowhere. End goal other than curiosity or application. I write a paper because UGC requires me to do so. My promotion depends on that. The objective of research, what it contributes other than appearing in some journal which many times people don't read, it just remains there. And I think this research certainly should be shunned away. And I'll put it to you that of course there are better institutions. So there are exceptions, but those exceptions prove the rule. But by and large, most of the research that takes place in our country is of this kind. What should really happen is that while we emphasize on basic research, see, every basic research, there may be some potential for application. And the user-inspired research has a fundamental content in it. So I think we should forget about, eliminate that distinction between fundamental research and applied research. And I think that we should try to find, and that's where there is importance to translational research. But equally important is the fact that if you are in a purely applied domain, I may be an engineer developing railways, developing spacecrafts, developing missiles, and so on and so forth. But I must also dwell in science behind all those to its most fundamental level. So I think what it boils down is this artificial distinction between fundamental research, applied research, this value which is, created that you are better, I am inferior and all. So this is like caste system. And caste system, the Brahman, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Shudra, that is what has created a lot of damage to our society. And the same mindset is creating a lot of damage to our scientific research. We should eliminate all those boundaries and focus on the pasture quadrant. Let us look at our universities in that context. Now, in this figure, on the right hand side, I have brought up a figure which I borrowed from the University of Tokyo. And you notice that if I compare that with a typical Indian university, the bottom segment of these two figures is identical. In fact, I have just copy pasted it. But the top segment, which deals with the industry and society, the group research and development, where aim is to produce commercial product, market social infrastructure, systems like that, and the skills required for that, the knowledge required for that, it's somewhat different compared to the individual research, which is of course aimed at problem finding and solving. But that is, this focused on a discipline, focused on a method, problem finding, this standard thing. So this, I think, Indians are as good as anybody else. What we lack is we don't have enough of this group activity, teamwork and leadership. We're not understood ourselves well, how the organization should work in that context, how how different disciplines should be brought to bear on this. So if you see there is a bar on the extreme right hand side called education sharing. And that bar has, there is a diagonal that divides that bar. At the top end, towards the industry and society, it is essentially industry which contributes to education sharing. And of course, university contributes a little tip. But it's a continuum going down towards the academia. It is the university which contributes to education sharing. But even there, industry should be there. So we are really at the bottom of this bar. And so our bar looks like what is there, the same bar, little education sharing with industry. There is some, but we call somebody for giving a lecture, or we send our students for a visit to a factory. That is important, but I think far from being good enough. So these things have to change. We need to create a holistic learning environment and an ecosystem in our universities and institutions. And unless we pay attention to that, you won't go anywhere close to what Stanford has been able to achieve. For example, Stanford and Silicon Valley, those names go together. How many places we have such names that university has transformed? They have transformed in terms of the rentals have gone up and the services people have benefited, but in terms of the national strength, national development, and this is what we should aim at. Our IITs have started doing that to some extent. So the other institutions, including private institutions, are doing well. In fact, from what I heard in the beginning about your institution, again, you are on that path. But you must recognize that we have miles to go. Now, how do we go there? We need an ecosystem for nurturing excellence of a type that will allow us to go there. So you need to create institutional values and yardsticks for measuring excellence according to those institutional values, and the two obviously are interlinked. Now, if I'm running an education institution and if I recognize the promotion of faculty purely on the basis of papers published, and we just count the number of papers, or maybe I also look at the impact factor and so on, it doesn't tell me what is the value industry would attach to this. How much of the technology industry is wanting to invest, how much product will come out. On the other hand, if there is a pure engineering domain, I may be doing good design, I may be doing good consultancy, but do very little to contribute to knowledge, no papers, no publications. But I am a very good engineer. Now, these are two extreme, and both of them don't really contribute to excellence, in my view. In my view, we need to create a yardstick for excellence which recognizes attributes on both sides. For example, when in the context of publication, we talk about impact. Quality of publication is one of the parameters judging the impact factor. So just as in the research, we talk about impact on peers, because impact comes about from the quality of journal and how many people read it. So it's essentially impact on peers. So in my core area of core discipline, whatever I do, whatever I publish, what is the impact I create on my peers? That obviously is one parameter. In fundamental research, people know this too well. But I must also worry about the impact on downstream partner. Either I should be able to translate what I found out or what I researched, new knowledge on. I should be able to move towards the exploring new frontiers on one side, but also translating it to applications. Now, if I don't want to do that, then I must at least cooperate or collaborate with somebody who wants to do that. So that becomes my downstream partner. And whatever I do, does it create impact on downstream partners? Or I may be doing great research, peer impact great, but no downstream partner wants to interact with me. Then there is something that to be worried about. And on the take that forward in terms of product to industry, a technology product to industry. I should also look at what is the value I have created. Whatever product has been put in the industry, how it is doing in the marketplace. What is the impact on industry? What is the impact on society? So according to me, you want to maintain institutional excellence. The yardstick for measurement of that excellence should include a weighted impact of considering all three parameters or aspects. So weightage is to be determined through an understanding between the individual and the institution. You don't have to determine that you have to have so much percentage on one side and so much percentage. There can be, but we must understand each person has a different aptitude. But it cannot be that I'll isolate completely from the other domain. That sharing can vary. And we must recognize that many of the new technology, out-of-box technology, the disruptive technologies, they actually would arise from a fundamental research domain with a greater probability than an applied research domain. And the figures at the bottom explain that point too well. I may develop a super high-speed train, bullet train. If I continue to do applied work in railway engineering, for example, but I don't think I'll be able to develop a maglev pursuing that track, because apart from the mechanical transmission and traction, I must also understand electromagnetics, which is another field of basic science. So the core ideas can come more from such fundamental research environment. And then, of course, ultimately, you want to make a big manual. It will going to be a large engineering enterprise. But that connectedness is very important. And I think we should encourage that on a continuous basis. So when it comes to evaluation, I just want to explain that in the form of this cartoon. And so it's a classroom where you can see the students sitting in front of the teacher. Each one has a different aptitude, each one has a different kind of capability, but they're all learning. Now the teacher says, and that is what we tend to say to our students, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same examination. Now here the teacher tells, climb that tree. And you can imagine how fair is that exam. So I think it's a telling criticism of the system that we're pursuing. Diversity is actually the basis of sustainable excellence, and that is what we don't respect. So I think we need to be aware of these aspects in our education and research domain. Secondly, our domain has to be also holistic, because I said that we must be all connected and we must translate, but translating that is not easy. There are several hurdles. When you translate idea to a kind of a proof of concept or a prototype, many things, you based on your idea, you work in the lab, that you take it to an industry person, he will say this may be okay for the lab, but it will not work in my industry. You will just outright reject that. Whereas, there has to be other. So unless in that idea or translation of that idea, you have that knowledge, what is it that would really work? How do you make technology robust? Then there is a question of you make a prototype, but then when it comes to mass manufacture, again there are other requirements. So you must understand that. And then there is a question of you may have manufactured, but how does the society or a market takes it? You may think I have a great product, the market may not like it. It has happened. Several products have failed when they came to market. So there are these valleys of death, as they are called, and you must, making holistic ecosystem is important to create that connectedness, create that approach pathway, but also create bridges to be able to negotiate these valleys of death. And there, of course, you require capability, diverse capability, and also a funding support, uh, funding by the government, funding at the level of academia, funding at the level of industry, and these proportions change as you move. So, but this ecosystem is extremely important, and that uh, is the key to sort of excellence of the kind that we are looking for. There are other things that we need to look at it. For example, you look at our import-export situation, and I have just listed here. This is some dated, but this is just internet exercise. You can do it in today's context also. And I find that there are several categories, goods or product categories, where we also export, we also import, but our import is much higher than our export. So we export essentially low value addition added goods, raw material, and import high value addition. So the country loses in the process. The exceptions are automobile vehicles, the clothing, and pharmaceuticals. And these are the areas where actually industry has done good research. They have teamed up, and India is a net export. You are actually getting value from outside into the country rather than allowing values to go out. So we are, but all other areas we have to improve our R&D. So why not, when we choose problems for R&D, choose some of these areas and see how our Indian products can become more competitive. Now, just as there is this balance of payment problem within countries, there is also a similar problem between urban areas and rural areas. Government has compiled the estimates of rural and urban per capita income in terms of net value added, which is 98,435 in urban areas and 40,925 in rural areas. This is part of the reply given. So why our rural areas should be poorer? Why our value addition in rural areas cannot be on par with urban areas, or for that matter even better, because they can contribute to, in the modern knowledge era context, uh, they can of course contribute to service sector, which is 50% economy. They can contribute to the manufacturing sector, and of course agriculture is their forte, strong point. So according to me, they have higher opportunities, but it is that we have not focused on education. So the key education challenge in specific Indian context, according to me, is one, to make India globally competitive, which I had mentioned earlier, giving Stanford example. We must capitalize on our demographic dividend, prepare to be effective in the new age society. But while we do so, we must also, because as I told you, in this, don't pay attention to the weaker domain, and rural areas is one such big weaker domain, then the disparity will keep increasing. So to reduce disparity, we need to create universal access to assured high quality education. Why can't we make special efforts to set up top class universities in rural areas where larger number of Indians live? And if you do that and empower rural people, it will certainly help making India globally competitive. It will take little time because there is some empowerment exercise which will hold us back to start with, but eventually this will make the difference. But we don't seem to. So we need to attend twin challenges: reduce the gap between the India and the best of the world, and also reduce the gap between our villages and cities. And only then, I think I would say that higher education has delivered on what is expected. And of course, we need an enabling environment for this purpose, and we need support systems to do that. So that, of course, we need to pay attention. Support system to bridge valleys of death, which I mentioned. So we must have all those elements: research and development, technology, product demonstration, incubation, startups, research park, arrangement for venture capital, and most importantly, the triple helix framework for large platforms. This is how we missed the so-called semiconductor revolution, in spite of the fact that India is a very strong country in material sciences, because we missed that our policies were not right. We missed investing in a fab lab and like that. So one is this elements of that ecosystem, and other side, of course, we need this entrepreneurship ecosystem: education and training, prototyping and qualification, standardization and certification. These are all equally important things. Just as we carry out research, we carry out research translation. And then one has to be very cautious about the issues connected to market entry, uh, government policies giving preference for domestic value addition. For example, now Make in India is a big thrust. And of course, supply chain vulnerabilities. We suddenly get worried about Chinese supplies, or if there is a Ukraine war, what will happen to supply chain. And India is a large country, so we should, while I think connectedness is extremely important, but at the same time, I think we must make sure that we have enough diversity on all aspects and make sure that we don't get these vulnerabilities. So that is where I'll stop, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are. Thank you.
Dear participants, please ask questions.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm able to only hear. Yeah, yes, I'm able
Yeah,
to.
I am Radha Krishna, sir. I am a faculty in EC department.
Okay.
Yes,
Just a
sir.
minute. Shall I click that stop presenting? That way,
Yes, yes.
I think.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't respond. Anyway, please ask the question.
Sir, can we know at least some of the priority areas, just like whether it is agricultural based or all these frontier research should concentrate on which field, or two or three handful of fields, which fields will be better? Whether
Well, very good question. And I would say we should, that is my individual opinion, opinions may differ. But I would say, an institution, education institution, and its connectedness with neighborhood is extremely important. So, in different places, there are different kinds of activities. There are some areas are predominantly agricultural. There are some areas which are predominantly industrial. There are some areas where, even within that, there will be sectors, industry of one kind, industry of other kind, or agriculture again, the agriculture may be common, but the crops you cultivate may be different. The practices for value addition, which is a very important part that goes along with agriculture, that may differ. Somewhere it may be sugar economy, somewhere else it may be textile, somewhere else it may be, leveraging agriculture for dyes printing, or the natural dyes. It's a big topic because artificial or chemical dyes have created a lot of environmental damage. Also, in the context of, we also know the world is moving in different directions. And then you must also look at the profile of our people. For example, in an institution, there are faculties uh, with different areas, different disciplines in which they specialize, and they may have individual interest. So, taking all that into account, I think one should identify where the institution wants to focus. Certainly, what I said is from an overall national perspective. For example, import export, I gave a table. Certainly, we should look at import export. But if you are looking at, say, if you are looking at it predominantly, let's say, agricultural domain, and on the side you look at the import export table, then you can look at where there is a need to work from import export point of view, but what are your core strengths? Looking at the interest in the surroundings, what kind of agricultural output is there? I'm talking about from value addition perspective, and look at in the context of the faculty interest, faculty. So you find and then decide where we should focus. This bandwagon mentality does a lot of harm, and it's ends up saying that so and so has succeeded in doing a particular area, so I will also do. Other fellow may have aptitude doing so. He may have some greater capability. I may have a different aptitude, so I should give expression to my other aptitude, because otherwise I may end up doing that, and depending on my capability, maybe I will not be a failure, but I'll certainly not be in the under top class. It will be like also ran. And you don't want India to create a country of also ran. We want to create India which goes in the top league. So I think it is these things which you should decide the priorities and focus. But there should be focus. You are absolutely right. Trying to say anything and everything is not good. But let us say if you are talking about a say 3 or 4 or 5 core areas in which institute wants to excel, and then that the needs of the neighborhood and the national needs put together and find out where the cross section sort of takes us, and maybe that should be the area of focus.
Thank you, sir.
That's it. I think there is no other question.
Thank you very much, sir, to share your valuable words. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time from your busy schedule to be the guest speaker at our seminar, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so see you next time, whatever is that date.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Time to log out, no?
Yes, sir. You
Thank you,
can
sir.
leave, sir.
Thank you, sir. It was an excellent session, sir, and inspiring session for the higher education and national perspective. We will
Thank you.
definitely consider your inputs and we will take up in a positive and progressive direction. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.